Hey yo, what is up? 10 tanks are getting buffed on the test servers right now. 4 tanks was announced last week. Another 6 tanks was announced today. So today we're going to look at all the tanks that are being buffed and how it is going to affect you. Now, first of all, the first tank that's being buffed right now, we're looking at it, is the M41D Chinese Premium Light Tank. What is being buffed is the view range from 390 view range up to 410. 410 will be the new view range, and also the mobility, which means the top speed and the reverse speed from 65 kilometers an hour to 68 kilometers an hour going forward, 22 kilometers an hour reverse to 24 kilometers an hour going in reverse. This is of course the M41D Chinese Premium Tier 8 light tank. It has good penetration, standard stock penetration is really good, great mobility, but other than that it doesn't have very good alpha if I recall correctly, and I don't know if these buffs are going to make it any more special. Alright, the next tank we are looking at is the FV1066 Senlac. This is of course another premium light tank, but this is the British light tank, and to be honest with you, this is not a very popular tank. Only 2 buffs from this tank, which is the accuracy from 0.38 to 0.35. That sounds more like a nerf to me. Just let me double check that again. 0.38 to 0.35, sorry, smaller number is better. 0.35 is a buff, so the accuracy is going to be slightly improved, and the view range from 410 from 400 to 410 is the proposed buff. That is the Senlac Tier 8 Premium Light Tank on the British line. The next tank we are going to look at is the T92, and T92 is a premium American light tank, and this thing is going to be buffed slightly as well. And what is going to be buffed is the standard shell penetration from 175 to 189 penetration, and the premium shell penetration is going to be buffed from 210 to 230 millimeters of penetration. Now this tank does suffer a lot from the shell penetration, really low penetration. This slight buff from 175 to 189 is going to be much welcomed. The 210 penetration to 230 premium shell penetration as well is going to be really good for this tank. Now let's move on to the next tank, also Tier 8, and it is the ISU-130. This is of course a Tier 8 tank destroyer on the Russian line. A lot of changes to this tank in particular. Let me just read it out to you. Standard shell penetration 215 to 238 millimeters. So for a tank destroyer, this is really important. Standard shell 238 standard shell penetration. Premium shell penetration 187 to 212 penetration. This is of course, I think, yeah, I don't know why it's 187 for special shell penetration. Just let me take a look at it quickly. Yeah, is the special shell HE or something? I think it probably is. That's what I think anyway. What else has changed is shell velocity. Standard shell velocity 898 to 960 penetration, and the HE shell velocity, I think this is what they call the premium shells, from 702 shell velocity to 850 meters per second, so that's pretty good. Gun traverse as well, bigger angles I guess, and then the engine power from 520 horsepower to 600 horsepower. So there will be an increase in mobility for this tank. The specific engine power as well, 11.06 horsepower per ton to 12.8 power to weight ratio. So that is increased mobility, I guess. You can change positions a bit better. Ammo capacity as well, instead of 25 shells, you'll be able to carry 35 shells in your tank. So let's move on to the newest announcements which came out today. This is regards to tier 10 tanks, and the first tank that's going to be buffed is the M60. Now the M60, of course, it's not a shit tank. In fact, it is a pretty good tank. The only problem is with this little tumor here on top of the turret, which is like, if the tank minus that turret, minus that machine gun port, I guess you would call it, it would be a lot better tank. So that's exactly what they're going to do. What exactly they're going to do, they have not listed out. It just says complex improvement of turret armoring. So they're going to do something about it, maybe change the angle slightly, maybe change the hit model, maybe change the thickness of the armor. I'm not sure. They did not put out any specifics on how they're going to change or improve the little tumor on top of the turret. But that is what they're going to aim to improve on the M60. Now remember, the M60 is quite a mobile medium tank. The gun isn't too bad. Actually, this tank isn't too bad at all. It isn't the greatest tank, isn't super competitive, but it isn't a terrible tank apart from that little tumor, which they're going to resolve, I suppose, in the test server right now. Let's move on to the next tank. Alright, next up is the 121B. A lot of changes into this tank. The proposed changes is reload time. This tank isn't a terrible tank. Actually, I kind of enjoyed it, even though I don't play it. I do play sometimes in clan wars or advances, you know, those kind of competitive kind of game modes. Reload time changed from 8.7 seconds to 8.1 seconds, so a little over half a second of improved reload time, therefore improving the DPM as well, from 2689 DPM to 2909 hit points DPM. The top speed will be changed from 50 to 55 kilometers going forward, so just a slight improvement in the forward speed. Reverse speed, 20 kilometers going backwards, will be improved to 25 kilometers an hour going back. Now 25 kilometers an hour is quite fast going backwards, which means this tank is going to enjoy a little bit more agility going forwards and backwards, wiggling around. It's going to be pretty good. Armoring on the turret and upper glacis of the plate will be improved. So they were talking about the frontal armor, the front plate and the turret face. So they're going to improve that a little bit, but they have not spelled it out exactly how many millimeters they're going to improve the shell, the armor thickness or anything like that. So we can just make a guess that it is improved at the moment. We'll find out when it happens and try it out for yourselves. Yeah, that's the 121B. Let's move on to the next tank. Alright, the next tank, KV4 Krevslavsky. This is of course one of the reward tanks you can get out in one of the tier 8 workshops or something like that. This tank isn't terribly good, isn't terribly popular. Nobody is chasing after it. You don't see a lot of people playing this tank because it's not that great. Basically, they have improved the gun dispersion quite dramatically. This is the traverse dispersion, which means when you are moving your hull, the moving dispersions is what's being improved on this tank. So the moving dispersion currently is 0.21. You won't be able to see this in the in-game stats, because these are kind of like the hidden stats that they don't tell anyone. But the gun dispersion during hull traverse is 0.21. They will change this to 0.14. So that is a significant improvement. 0.14 means when you're moving your hull and firing your gun, the accuracy is going to be improved dramatically. Engine power as well improved from 1200 horsepower to 1350 horsepower, which means you're going to have an improved mobility. Specific engine power, which is power to weight ratio 12.96, they're going to improve it to 14.6 horsepower per ton. Top speed as well, from 30 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour. This is a significant improvement to the mobility of this tank. Vehicle durability, that means the hit points of this tank, additional 200 hit points, from 1500 to 1700 hit points. This is a significant buff. Out of all the tanks that we have gone through today, the KV4 is the one that is significantly improved. The armor on the turret as well, and the gun mantlet and the sides of the turret is going to be improved as well, but they have not spelled it out. They have not said exactly how many millimeters of armor thickness they're going to add to the turret. All they said is they're going to improve the mantlet and the side of the turret. So let's see what's going to happen to this tank. Let's move on to the next tank, which is the Chieftain T95. This is the other Chieftain that you don't know about. The reason why you don't know about this tank is because no one plays it. This is a Tier 8 Clan Wars reward tank as well. This is a medium tank in Tier 8. It's got a huge tumor on top of its turret. Why no one knows about it? Like I said, no one plays it. This tank is so bad. I actually made a video about this tank a long time ago when it first came out. I got one of these tanks as a reward. I tried to make a video out of it. It was so bad, I actually abandoned the project. That's how bad this tank is. What have they improved? They're going to improve the moving dispersions, which is the hull dispersion or the hull movement dispersion. These are one of the hidden stats. Again, you do not see these stats on your in-game interface. These are hidden stats, and they're going to improve the hull movement dispersion, which means when you move your hull and fire your gun, it'll be slightly more accurate. From 0.18, which it is currently now, they're going to change it to 0.14. The smaller the number, the better. 0.14 dispersion. 0.14 means it's the penalty added to your standard dispersion. That's what the moving dispersion does. The stock dispersion is going to be improved as well, because it takes a really long time to aim this gun. So the turret dispersion, when you are moving your turret around and firing your gun, the dispersion is 0.14. They're going to change it and improve it to 0.10. So basically an improvement on the gun performance while the tank is on the move. Whether you're moving your hull or you're moving your turret, you're going to have better gun performance. Reload time as well, they're going to buff it slightly from 8.3 seconds to 7.5 seconds. This is a slight improvement. It is very much welcome. Therefore, improving the DPM as well, because you reload quicker, DPM will go higher from 1734 to a new 1920 hit points of DPM. View range will be improved from 380 to 400 meters. Engine power will be improved as well, from 750 horsepower to 850 horsepower. Significant improvement. This means also the horsepower per ton or power to weight ratio will be improved from 15 to 17. Let's move on to the next tank, which is the IS-5. Now this IS-5 is legendary. It is one of the, it is the first actually, it is the first reward tank in Tier 8 Clan Wars reward tank. in Tier 8. I remember having this tank when it first came out. I played this tank exclusively for Tier 8 strongholds. This is before the Defender came out for sale. When the Defender came out for sale, everyone switched to the Defender for farming credits. The IS-5 was very useful to me. I played thousands of games, not thousands, hundreds and hundreds of games in this tank in Tier 8 strongholds, and I have farmed billions and billions of credits with this tank. Why was this tank good? Before the Defender showed up, this tank was the go-to tank because it fired standard shells that were APCR. Standard shells, APCR, means they fly fast, they hit your targets quickly, and it was pretty good for a Tier 8 strongholds tank. What are they improving on this tank? They are improving the gun dispersion on the movement of the hull, which means another dispersion improvement that you won't see in the user interface. These are hidden stats. The hull dispersion improved from 0.24 to 0.20. Also improving, they're also going to improve the turret dispersion. Turret dispersion is again the same kind of penalties you add to your stock dispersion. So the turret dispersion from 0.16 to 0.10, this is significant improvement, which means you are going to get less penalty for firing your gun on the move, whether your hull is moving or your turret is moving. This going to make this tank perform a little bit better on the move. The gun depression of this tank is going to be improved as well. It used to be 5 degrees of gun depression, much like Russian medium tanks. 5 degrees, you can't really fight over a ridge. They're going to change it to 7 degrees gun depression. 7 degrees is not the greatest, but it is very workable and very usable for this tank. And let's move on to the last tank, which is the T23E3. This tank is going to be buffed as well. And what is the proposed buff? The proposed buff is gun dispersion buff. Now this tank isn't terrible in a tier 7, to be honest with you. It fires quickly. The gun is like a pea shooter. It doesn't do much damage. It looks like a T20, which makes it a little bit more desirable that way in terms of the way it looks. I think it looks kind of cool. I like the way it looks. It's just a shame that it doesn't do a lot of damage with its puny little gun. But dispersion on the move is going to be improved. When I say dispersion on the move, means the hidden stats. Again, the hidden stats, the hull traverse dispersion improved from 0.20 to 0.14. This is a significant improvement, although it's not going to be published on the user interface because it is a hidden stat. It means that the gun is going to perform a lot better while the tank is, while you're driving around and firing your gun. The penalty for the dispersion isn't going to be as great. So 0.20 improved to 0.14. So that is the only change that they're making on the T23E3. Again, this is one of the reward tanks for Clan Wars from a long time ago. Will all these buffs to the reward tanks and to the premium light tanks and the SU-130, will they make a difference? You can see a pattern building here. I think within every month they're going to buff a handful of tanks, maybe 5-10 tanks every month. They're gonna keep buffing all these tanks that nobody plays, just to bring them into a more competitive level field with the rest of all the tanks that are in the game right now. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like these buffs to the old tanks are much welcomed, but they're not going to make a lot of difference in terms of performance of these tanks. These tanks are underperforming. I think even with the buffs, they're still going to be underperforming. Maybe the biggest difference you're going to see is with the KV4 Krevslavsky Krevslavsky. If you have that tank, I think you're gonna see, you're gonna feel a lot of difference in that particular tank. For the rest of the tanks, I don't think it's going to matter that much. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.